Welcome in, everyone, and thank you for listening to the 127th ever episode of the Missouri Sports Podcast, brought to you by 106 Apparel and recording from the Revel Advertising Studio in beautiful Springfield, Missouri. I'm one of your hosts, Cameron Albert, alongside my good friend and fellow Mizzou fan, Kyle DeVries. Happy Super Bowl Sunday week, Kyle.
Thank you. Wow. Wow. That was a new way to start off an episode.
Yeah.
Huh? Thank you very much, Cameron. It feels good to have a team in the Super Bowl twice in a row.
Twice in a row. You know how many times teams have gone back to, what was it?
Not related to the Chiefs
Oh.
is what it was, but
Do you know how many teams have rematched in the Super Bowl? How many times that's happened?
Exactly 8.
That's correct.
Yeah. What's your take? Who's going to win this week?
Chiefs are going to win. Mahomes is going to be MVP. He was MVP last year, but stole it from Damian Williams, in my opinion.
You guys are, yeah. That was like your main takeaway from last year's game.
Yes. They just had to give it to the quarterback.
I agree. I think they're going to win, and that's true. You have to. Playing Tom Brady is a little bit scary. Even old man Brady's a little bit scary just because he's just kind of he's like old wizard or something.
Yeah, he's wily.
Yeah, but I don't know. It's kind of cool though. It's kind of cool also to changing of the guard, you know.
Oh yeah.
And I'm sure producer Cameron loves that. I'm a little bit nervous about the Chiefs' offensive line because they're just really having to reach into the depth to and Tampa's D-line is really good, so that could be a little terrifying, but Mahomes usually finds a way. I
think the Chiefs are going to win 32-28.
Okay.
That sounds like it could be like a scoregami.
That sounds like a really good pick. I'll go with that as well.
Okay. The Chiefs are wearing red. Is that right?
Yes. Yep.
They won last year wearing red.
That's correct.
But Tom Brady's wearing white.
which he's won. No. Nothing to do with wins. The last 6 Super Bowls he's been in, they've worn white, whatever team he's been on.
So he's comfortable in white in the Super Bowl.
That's not good. I'm worried now.
What do you think about they're getting to play in their own home stadium?
That's
wild.
kind of unlucky.
Never happened before.
Sleep in your own bed.
I'm pretty sure, didn't they? Well, the Chiefs in Tampa played earlier this year, and I believe it was in Tampa, and the Chiefs won. So,
did they really?
Yeah, they did. They sure did. And I think that was the game that Tyreek Hill went for 200 yards receiving in the first quarter or something.
Yeah, he was on pace for 1,000 there for a minute. Kyle, we've got a lot of Mizzou to talk about, not just the Chiefs. Not everybody cares about the Chiefs.
True.
But if you care about the Chiefs, let us know in the YouTube comments. Also, don't forget to subscribe on YouTube. We appreciate everybody over there. And don't forget, we have a new Patreon page. Check it out, patreon.com/Missouri Sports Pod. That's where you can check out our different subscription support tiers, see the perks involved. There's some cool stuff. We've already got some exclusive content over there. So check that out, patreon.com/Missouri Sports Pod. Kyle, we gotta continue with a couple topics that are near and dear to our hearts. We talked about the Super Bowl, but did you see this news? EA Sports announced they're bringing college football video game back, folks.
That's fantastic news. That was to me the sign we are moving on from 2020. All things are right in the world now, and everything in front of us is good in the world.
Now, we're probably a couple years away from actually getting our hands on it, but maybe 2 or 3 years. So maybe they were a little premature in announcing this, but you got to start building that hype. But
they built it.
Yeah, they built it in a hurry. I mean, if they didn't realize how many people would be excited about this, then they need to re-examine their they might be a little bit out of touch because
they have to know.
Yeah.
I don't know what was taking. I don't know why. I don't know the behind the scenes of what took so long for them to resume this, but I can't wait to win 25 national championships with Missouri.
Oh yeah. I'm just so excited. That is literally one of my all-time favorite games, and I still use my PlayStation 3 just to play that game.
Exactly. Basically. I can stop playing NCAA football 2012 on my Xbox 360.
Yeah.
That'll be nice.
Hopefully we'll get some nice folks out there that will update the rosters for us, so we can just hit that download button. Oh man, can't wait for that. Can't wait to create recruits and lose them to Alabama just like real life. Kyle, getting into the real news now, before we talk about how well the basketball team's doing, there was another National Signing Day yesterday, and not a whole lot of action. Pretty much everything happens in the first signing day nowadays, but we actually got a signature for one B.J. Harris, so we made it official there, and I believe it was made official the transfer of Mookie Cooper. He was included in the signing day festivities. Yeah,
like you said, pretty much everybody signed on the first day. We didn't get signatures from B.J. Harris or Shamar Pearl. Shamar Pearl, I can't remember if we really mentioned this much last week or not, but he didn't qualify academically, I guess, and so he decommitted from Missouri, and I'm not sure where he's going to end up, but best of luck to him wherever he ends up going next year. And B.J. Harris, exciting prospect from Tennessee, and he just seems like a really well-rounded back to me. I think when you think of Larry Roundtree and Tyler Beatty, I feel like they have pretty distinctive qualities about them as a running back, where Tyler Beatty's super fast and shifty. He's kind of the pass catcher. Larry Roundtree's kind of the ground and pound, not quite as fast or shifty, but can run over you. And I feel like B.J. Harris is kind of a beautiful combination of the two, where he's just super well-rounded, and he can burn you, but he can run over you too. And I should have written down the numbers, his exact statistics in high school, but his statistics are crazy. And I think in the state championship game, he had like over 100 yards rushing and 3 touchdowns, and so he knows how to get it done.
Would you rather be burned or run over?
Run over. I would rather be burned for sure.
Okay,
I've said that wrong, obviously. I would not want to be run over. That not only would that be humiliating, but it would hurt really bad, I'm sure, and just I don't want that to happen to me.
Are you talking about like on the football field or?
Yeah,
would you rather be set on fire
or run over by like a semi-truck?
By a car? Going 30 miles an hour. So not so fast.
Am I gonna die like both
neither,
times?
Yes, you're gonna die either way.
I'd probably rather just get run over. Just make it quick.
Okay. But on the football field, you'd rather get burned.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
What about you?
I agree. All right. Leave a comment on YouTube. Would you rather be burned or run over? You ready to talk about basketball?
Yeah, something a little more pleasant.
Okay. Mizzou,
but barely more pleasant.
Barely more pleasant. Hey, a win is a win.
Yeah.
Unless you're on KenPom. It might as well be a loss. Mizzou beat TCU in overtime, 102-98. What do you think about that?
Well, I had to watch this game on my phone with no sound. I didn't get a chance to go back and look at it. I have watched, several highlight videos of it and stuff, and kind of watched the end sequence and overtime and stuff. But oh man, this was quite the journey, and kind of just the first half, it kind of felt like the Mississippi State game a little bit, where it was like, okay, they're just making everything, and Missouri didn't play great defense. But it kind of felt like, okay, TCU, we're just going to let them hit their shots, and then they're going to cool off eventually. And they just kind of didn't. They just never stopped consistently hitting shots from everywhere.
Yeah, Missouri gave up 45 points in the first half. It was kind of ugly, but it made you feel like, okay, TCU just played maybe their best half of the season. Surely that won't continue into the second half, and everything will be fine. And to some extent, they came down to earth a little bit, or I guess probably what happened is Missouri's offense just caught up a little bit. They kind of just chipped away in the second half. They got it down to a 4-point deficit a couple times. But TCU, they had a knack of just like, they would force a turnover and immediately convert it into 2 points or a trip to the free throw line at the other end. And they had a 12-point lead with under 5 minutes left. And KenPom had Missouri's chances to win that game at 3.9%. And I had it at -1,000,000%.
Yeah, I think I remember you saying something like this thing's over.
Yeah.
And I 100% agreed with you. And that was the exact moment where when they got down by 12 with 3 or 4 minutes to go, and
they didn't just go down 12. It was a turnover that led to a bucket, and it was just like, okay.
The momentum was seemingly going away from them. That was a very frustrating moment. And, you know, if Missouri loses this game, it's what, like a quad 3 loss potentially?
Yeah.
This is a really bad loss against a really not a very good TCU team. And I don't know.
Although TCU did look pretty good when they beat Oklahoma State.
They did beat Oklahoma State last night or whenever that was.
Root for TCU.
Yeah. Bump them up to a quad 2 maybe if they keep winning. But this just shouldn't have been a game that was that close. And to be honest, I'm not sure I could really tell if Missouri's defense was just playing awful or if TCU was just hitting everything. But I'm just so thankful that Missouri just happened to have one of those games where they were scoring too, to be able to just even remotely be in this game.
Yeah, so I want to focus on that last 5 minutes because it was so interesting and fun. Obviously, never should have been in a situation where you're down by 12 at home to TCU, but Mizzou just kept feeding Tillman late. He kept getting fouled, and he made just enough of his free throws to keep Missouri in it. That was, if I'm TCU, then I would readily send him to the line over just letting him go to work down low. And then they started getting some stops. They got a couple stops. Pinson made a late shot clock 3, like kind of a step back off the dribble that he kind of had to make for himself. And he got fouled. And so he got a 4-point play. And that cut the lead to 4 with 2 minutes and 30 seconds left. They drew up a play for Mark Smith come off a screen, and he hit an open 3. That was a welcome sight. But then this guy for TCU, freshman guard Mike Miles, he answered with just what I thought was a dagger of a step back 3 on the other end. He was so good. And obviously we don't know a whole lot about TCU going into this just because they're in the Big 12. But I got to think, based on that performance, I haven't really looked at if that's an outlier for the whole season, but he looked every bit the part of a guy who's going to be trouble in the Big 12 for 4 seasons.
Yeah, for sure. Couldn't stop him, save our lives. Yeah, I think in that little timeout, whenever Mizzou was down 12, right before they sparked that run, I don't know, they like sent Xavier Pinson up to heaven and to speak with God himself on like how to master the game of basketball, because he figured
it out.
Yeah, he just flipped the switch and was so intense and just, I don't know, he was just a killer in the last 5 minutes. Just did everything he needed to do to. I mean, it's just like a miracle had to occur for all of these things to perfectly line up to get Missouri even a chance to get this game to overtime. Was a miracle.
Yeah, that freshman guard Mike Miles for TCU, he ended up with 28 points on 12 of 20 shooting, as well as 5 rebounds and 5 assists. Tillman got a basket. We got a stop on defense. Then Pinson hit another 3 to make it a 1-point game with 25 seconds left. And that was the stretch where it was just like a whirlwind. And like you said, Pinson was playing out of his mind. And Missouri was getting stops all of a sudden. And it was like the West Virginia game from
a few years
3 years ago.
Yeah.
You know, and all the other games like it that have happened, the Florida game, even Mississippi State from this year.
Mm-hmm.
And Missouri had a big comeback last season against Georgia. Yeah. It seems like Missouri's been on the bad end, you know, like 3 times as many games than the good end. But this one was a good one, obviously. Missouri fouled TCU. They made both free throws. Mizzou ran an elevator screen for Drew Smith, which I thought was interesting. That's the screen where the 2 guys kind of just come together as the offensive player runs through, like elevator doors closing. But he missed the 3. I thought it was interesting that they drew up that play for him. I like it. I mean, if I'd be okay with him or Mark Smith or Pinson getting a play designed for them to take a 3 to try to tie it. But he missed, and Kobe Brown got a clutch offensive rebound, kicked it back out to Pinson, and he hit the game-tying 3 with 3.9 seconds left. And they did it. They came all the way back to force overtime.
Yeah, so many people deserve credit, I guess, and at least at the end of this game. Obviously, Kobe Brown never going to probably be scoring 20-plus points a game or anything, but was just almost kind of the unsung hero in this game by some of just some of the gritty plays he made and just some of the offensive rebounds he had to give Missouri more chances, and played great on defense. And I don't know, I gotta love Kobe Brown and the effort he brings every game. And Missouri just has a few of those glue guys where they just know their role on the team and they'll just do anything they can to make sure they're helping out in any way. And they probably maybe know their limits a little bit, at least at this point in their career. And like Javon Pickett and Kobe Brown and Mitchell Smith, like all those guys just kind of fill a very specific role and do it well. As long as Mitchell Smith's not throwing up too many threes, then
yeah, we'll get to that.
They're in line for the most part, and they really add a lot.
Overtime wasn't a cakewalk. It should have been. Missouri missed a lot of free throws in overtime, it seemed like. Kobe Brown missed 2 that either one of them would have made it a 4-point game and put it away. Drew Smith missed a free throw. Tillman had a couple misses in overtime, I think. But and TCU had 3 different 1-point leads in overtime.
I think so. They had a couple guys foul out.
Yeah. But Pinson hit a corner 3 that was just beautiful. I mean, he doesn't get that many catch and shoot threes, especially in the corner. It just seems like he's usually, out front making plays, but he drained it. And Kobe Brown had another clutch offensive rebound off his own missed free throw that kept the game alive. It was a heck of a win, but as fun as it was, Missouri was supposed to win by 5 to 8 points.
Yeah.
Probably.
Now, if we would have had that game versus Alabama this upcoming weekend or something, now that would be so much fun.
Right.
Going to overtime and winning a thriller like that. But yeah, considering we were playing a quadrant 3 opponent at home, that was pretty disappointing. But I was just happy to get the win and get out of there. But I was definitely feeling pretty low.
Yeah, everything changes when you're down 12 and then you come back and win. It's like, okay, I don't care anymore that we were down 12. We pulled out the win. According to ESPN Stats and Info, Xavier Pinson and Jeremiah Tillman are the only SEC duo in the last 25 years. Sorry, only the second duo in SEC basketball in the last 25 years to both put up 30 points in the same game, a.k.a. play a little 30 ball. Obviously, it took overtime to get there, but just huge numbers from both of them. Yeah. Tillman, 33 points, 11 rebounds, 3 blocks. Pinson, 36 points, 4 assists, just 2 turnovers.
He made 8 3-pointers, too.
8 for 13.
Which it really hasn't been his strong point in his career. Really, even this year, I feel like he'll have a game every once in a while where, like versus Tennessee a few weeks ago, where he hit a lot of threes, but I don't know.
That's like a top 2 or 3 3-point shooting game of anybody on the roster.
Yeah.
Kobe Brown with 13 rebounds.
Wow.
Several of them incredibly clutch, especially after the missed free throw.
Yeah, that was a big one.
And the offensive rebound kicked back out to Pinson to tie the game. I mean, there was a play right around there where Mark Smith got the ball in the corner, pump faked and drove baseline, and I thought the game was over at that point. I thought he was going to get it stolen or just step out of bounds or dribble it off his foot or something, but I was terrified.
That's reasonable to
when he was dribbling under the basket trying to find someone to kick it back out to. It ended well, but in that moment I was like, well, it's over. There were several times there during the comeback where I thought we were going to fall short.
Well, you made it close, but
yeah.
Why what's going on with these games where Mizzou needs a miracle to win it, like against teams they should be beating? Obviously, they did it against Bradley, TCU. I feel like they did it against somebody else too, where they're just like should be beating these teams handily and don't, and then not only that, but they're like down big at the end and need to just assemble an insane comeback to win it. First of all, I'm happy that they're doing that. I haven't always done that.
Oh no.
But it just is like, why does it have to be like this?
Yeah. I mean, I think we're just not used to
watching a winning team.
Yes. And occasionally a good team is going to get down and have to pull one out. And so we're seeing that, whereas in previous seasons, maybe we would be accustomed to them obviously being on the other side of a run like that, or just not having enough to get back into a game when they are losing like that. But I'm glad you brought up the Bradley game, because they're just a couple plays, a couple whistles away from obviously losing both of those games and be sitting at 10-5 on the season. But then they're also just a couple whistles and plays away from holding on against Mississippi State and beating Auburn. And then you're looking at a team that's 14-1. So there's just not a lot of wiggle room there for Missouri from being 10-5 versus 14-1.
Who did you say the close wins were against?
Bradley and TCU.
Okay, close losses, I mean?
Mississippi State and Auburn.
Okay.
I mean, it took a crazy comeback from Mississippi State where they just couldn't miss in the second half. And then Auburn, if the whistles are just a little bit friendlier, then I think Missouri pulls that one out. So there's a 5-game swing there. And I think we should be happy that Missouri got the Bradley game and the TCU game to go their way. I'll take as many of those close wins as you want to give me.
It's all luck, dude.
Just rounding out the stats here for Missouri, they shot 63% from 2, 48% from 3, 11 for 23. But just 60% from the free throw line. And they only turned the ball over 11 times, or just 14% of their possessions, which is a trend that, it's legitimately a trend now that Missouri has not been turning the ball over very much. We'll see if that continues against Alabama. And they out-rebounded TCU by 5. We talked about Mike Miles. This was, according to the analytics, Missouri's worst defensive game of the season.
I checked Mike Miles' performance from last night against Oklahoma State, and he scored 17, I think is what it said. So apparently he's decent.
That's a good enough sample size for me. He's good.
Exactly.
Big 12 Player of the Year coming up soon.
Yeah.
Missouri, I think they gave up like 1.27 points per possession against TCU, which is the highest. Yeah, it's the highest for any game this season for Missouri's defense. They actually dropped 2 spots in KenPom, probably for that exact reason, from 35th to 37th overall. And for the first time, I think, maybe since very early in the season, their offensive efficiency surpassed their defensive efficiency. So if I look at it
like
right now,
significantly higher than that now, I think. Or not significantly, but probably 10 or 15 spots.
Yeah, 32nd on offense, 44th on defense. So I don't know exactly what to make of that. If their 3-point shooting was just a little bit better, then that offensive number would just be destroying the defensive side.
Right. SEC won the SEC Big 12 Challenge.
Yeah.
Except Kentucky and Texas had to cancel their game. So SEC won 5-4. If Kentucky and Texas play, it's getting a 5-5 split. So yes. SEC, I guess, is fortunate that game didn't get played because Kentucky was going to get destroyed by Texas, I'm sure.
I was going to maybe mention this after the Kentucky game, but since you brought up the SEC Big 12 Challenge, I have a question for you, Kyle.
Okay.
Unless you have anything else to say specifically about the TCU game. Great win. Great that they won.
Okay.
Is what I'm trying to say.
Happy to see him win.
Yes. Not a great win.
Yeah, not a great performance.
Root for TCU. Hopefully that becomes a little bit better.
Great resolve.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is the SEC as a conference bad at basketball? That's the question I'm posing to you right now.
I feel like I ask myself this every year. It's kind of weird because I feel like the rest of college basketball is bad this year. I genuinely, like, the ACC is terrible.
It's like Gonzaga and Baylor.
Yeah.
And then everyone else can beat everyone else.
Yeah. I'll get back to your question in a second. But if the NCAA tournament started today, are you taking Gonzaga and Baylor, or are you taking the field?
Oh, Gonzaga Baylor.
Oh, me too.
Yeah.
I feel like
I would bet actual money on that.
Statistically, I think I've heard it's like a 50-50 split right now. But I would be very confident if in Baylor or Gonzaga winning the tournament. I'll get back to your question. In a normal year, I think I'd say the SEC, yes, is bad or is not great. But this year, I think they could get, I don't know. How many teams do you think they'll get in the tournament? 5 or 6?
Well,
I just think they don't really have a dominant team. Like Alabama is good, but when you put Alabama up against the best in college basketball, I'm not sure that they can stand tall against some of those teams.
Yeah. We'll dive deeper into Alabama in a minute, but they did lose to Oklahoma in the Big 12 SEC Challenge, and Oklahoma was without a starter or two, potentially. Alabama's a lock for the tournament. Missouri's a lock for the tournament. That's right. I'm saying it. I think Arkansas, Tennessee, Florida, LSU, 6 teams.
I think LSU might be more in than Arkansas right now. I don't know. Arkansas is 14-5, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know. I have a lot of like mediocre teams that could beat you, that could beat a lot of teams.
Well, the thing about it is those teams are getting upset in conference play when they shouldn't.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems like there's a lot of times when you're just like plugging in wins and losses, if you're like trying to project out the records, you'll end up with teams that will have like 2 losses and teams that have 2 wins, and that's just unrealistic. But that's kind of happening this season with Alabama and Vanderbilt.
Mm-hmm.
Like Vanderbilt has 1 conference win, and they are going to be lucky to get another one.
Right. And outside of the Missouri game, obviously, we kind of just need Alabama to keep doing that.
Yeah.
Because I don't think Missouri is going to catch them. I mean, it's possible, but I think if I'm being irrational, I'd just like Alabama to run away with it and beat some of those middling teams that Missouri is fighting for the C line in the SEC tournament. And, you know, Florida looked amazing against West Virginia. They go on the road, beat West Virginia, and they kind of led wire to wire in that game. And then they
Tennessee beat
come home and they lose to South Carolina.
Yeah. Yeah, South Carolina's not good, I don't think. Tennessee beat somebody.
They destroyed Kansas by like 20 points.
And then they turn around and lose to Ole Miss.
Yeah. Maybe just the bottom of the SEC is just amazing.
Well, Ken Pom has the SEC as the 3rd best league in the country, but neck and neck with the ACC.
I would say I feel like they're better than the ACC this year.
Yeah. And then the Big 12 is a noticeable jump above, even though SEC Big 12 challenge went the SEC's way. And then the Big 10 is a noticeable step above the Big 12. I can't bring myself to say that the SEC is bad. The SEC still is full of incredible coaches, I think, and incredible talents. Like, we didn't get to see yet Cam Thomas at LSU. He's the type of player that in an NCAA tournament setting can win you 3 games. And just like that, you know, next thing you know, you're in the Sweet 16, Elite 8 as LSU. And when you look back at, and Sharif Cooper, like if Auburn wins enough to get into the NCAA tournament, I want no part of a Sharif Cooper-led team in a 1-game elimination tournament. If you look back at previous seasons of SEC basketball, I mean, last year Ken Pom had him as the 6th best conference. Year before that, 4th. Year before that, 4th. And, you know, even though some of those seasons they had 7 or 8 tournament teams, I don't know. Last year, Ken Pom was projecting that that the SEC would only have 4 teams: Kentucky, Auburn, LSU, and Florida. Obviously, we'll never know exactly what would have happened, but
I was over here thinking, like, and how many did they get? And
yeah,
then,
the world will never know.
Yeah.
if I'm answering plainly, no. The SEC is not bad at basketball. I think they just don't have... They may only have one great team. And it's a surprise to, I think, any SEC basketball fan that team is not Tennessee.
Yeah.
I still think it's possible that Tennessee figures something out and finishes the year strong and is one of the top teams that people are talking about in the tournament at the end of the season.
Yeah, I'm glad we got our our 2 games against them out of the way, because they certainly could get hot at any moment if they can figure out how to score a little bit more on the offensive end. But yeah, I really I don't know. I think they could get 6 teams in for sure, and then I think there's definitely kind of a tier break after those top 5 or 6 teams.
Auburn will be kind of a wild card.
Yeah.
If they can string enough wins together, and we're dealing with just people in the tournament selection committee, how will they look at Auburn before Sharif Cooper?
Exactly.
Because it's just 2 completely
different
different
area
teams.
for sure.
We on the same page?
I think we're on the same page.
Classic. Mizzou beat Kentucky for the second time ever in program history.
Was it really only the second time?
I think so. The only reason I said that is because the first time was Konzo's first season.
Yeah.
So they haven't beat him since then.
Sounds right to me.
At 1 + 1 is 2, I think.
Yes.
Unless I'm missing a third one in there somewhere. 75-70. Drew Smith. 26 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists, just 1 turnover. Just like, I almost said like vintage Drew Smith game, but even then, we don't typically get 26 points out of him.
No.
Especially in a low-scoring game like this. Like there was no overtime period to boost his point total.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say this game honestly went pretty similar to how we expected it to go, how we previewed it, and how we predicted the score. It was a little bit higher scoring than we predicted, but and I would say Kentucky shot the ball maybe a little bit better than I was expecting, which was a little bit frustrating that they made more threes than I was thinking they would.
Well, they had the dude Mintz,
yeah,
who was 4 for 9 from 3.
Missouri got their shot blocked a lot. We predicted that.
Yeah, I think Isaiah Jackson had 5 blocks,
probably
all on his own,
all against Mark Smith.
And Kobe Brown at the 3-point line.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Okay. Kobe Brown. Is his shot motion always that slow?
No,
or did he just decide to really take his time on that
I
shot?
think he underestimated the closing speed and probably a little bit the length. That combination of Jackson.
That's one thing that obviously translates is that length and athleticism, and like, man, you got to get a shot up quick playing against Kentucky, because they will just swat it out of the gym if they have a chance to.
And they affected maybe Penson the worst. He was 3 for 11 from 2 in this game, and he had a lot of shots altered at the rim.
Mm-hmm.
And Kentucky's good at that. I mean, they have the length and the speed to cover ground on the defensive end and alter shots, and they definitely did that in this game.
Yeah, especially early on in this game, it felt like Kentucky was really engaged defensively, and just their length was just really clogging up the passing lanes, and like Tillman couldn't really get anything going, and like they were just at one point just kind of passing around the perimeter, kind of almost like, all right, what do we do here? Like, how do we decipher this puzzle, and how do we get it inside? Because Kentucky was just really everywhere.
Yeah, Missouri shot just 38% on 2-pointers. Luckily, they shot well from 3, 43%. So, and we saw, Kentucky made their nice little comeback in the second half when Missouri's offense just went ice cold. Missouri couldn't make a shot from deep for a little while, partly because the wrong people were taking threes. But if Missouri doesn't get the 3-point shooting that they got from Drew X and Mark Smith, there's been a handful of games this season where literally the entire roster is cold from 3. And if they had one of those games against Kentucky, it would have easily been a loss, because they had to kind of pick it back up offensively in the last 10 minutes of this game, because they're at the start of the second half. Kentucky kind of enforced their will a little bit. They just really made it hard for Missouri to score, and Missouri decided to just settle from long range and started missing them.
Yeah, and still scored 75 points, so still found a way to put points up, even though they ran into some resistance early on for sure. But Yeah. I was excited to see Drew Smith kind of explode because I don't know. I think he still had a really strong season. He's had a little bit more up and down performances than he did last year. And honestly, I think a lot of it may just be because he's kind of almost saying, Xavier Pinson, take it away.
Yeah.
And Tillman, take it away. And I was almost ready to just say, maybe last week or 2 weeks ago, that Drew Smith isn't really the star of this team anymore. Like I felt like he was last year, and he's kind of a role player to kind of put the ball on the tee for Xavier Pinson and Jeremiah Tillman to do their thing. And maybe you could still make that argument a little bit, but last night he was truly the star.
Yeah.
And he was the heart and soul of the performance. And it's just exciting that you can get that from 3 different guys on the roster. And I don't know, Xavier Pinson and Jeremiah Tillman, Drew Smith, any of those 3 guys can just explode on a night. And usually one of them do.
Yeah.
I mean, that's if those guys aren't going off, then we don't have a shot,
right?
No matter who we're playing.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting when you look at 3-point shooting in this game. Drew Smith, Mark Smith, and Xavier Pinson, they combined for 7 for 11 from 3. Kobe Brown, Mitchell Smith, and Drew Buggs were a combined 1 for 9. And also Parker Brown had his 1 for 1 performance. So if you just distribute 5 of those 9 threes from Kobe, Mitch, and Drew Buggs over to Drew Smith, X, and Mark, maybe you're looking at 2 more makes. Just 1 out of those 5. Or just don't take those 5 extra threes at all. But
that's what Twitter would say. That's for sure.
That's what people who like to watch good basketball would say, I think.
Mitch's got that laser shot where it's like, did that clear the rim?
Well, it's the release. He's
Yeah.
pretty tall and got long arms. Where he's releasing the ball is like pretty high up there.
Yeah.
So it doesn't need to travel too much further up. I want to give a shout out to Tom Orff on Twitter. He pointed out that this is the first time for Missouri that Drew, Mark, and X have all made at least 2 threes in the same game.
We'll take it.
Yeah. More of that, please.
Yeah.
Let that not be the last time.
Yeah. Please give us more consistency from 3-point land.
But it just is so reassuring that when a good defensive team in Kentucky, at least interior defense, causes Missouri to struggle a little bit, that they can put some shots in from outside.
Well, I mean, Kentucky probably doesn't have the offense to really make this happen, but it was almost had the potential to mirror that first game against Tennessee a little bit, where if we can't get the ball inside, we're gonna have to start shooting threes. And that's what happened against Tennessee, and we scored like 50 points in that game because they're like, well, they're taking away the 2-point shot, we're gonna have to start making threes. Couldn't do that.
Yeah.
And against Kentucky, well, they're kind of taking away the 2-point shot right now, got to start making threes, and they did. So obviously that was the huge difference between those 2 games. And I don't know, it could have been a lot worse. The first half felt like a dream against Kentucky. Just everything was working for the most part, even with some defensive resistance. But the beginning of the second half, I was like, here we go, because Kentucky was getting hot. They definitely, I think they came back and tied it or something, didn't they? From like a 13-point deficit. Maybe it was close, but not tied.
It was very, very close. I think they at least made it like a 1-point game.
I think it was
at one point in the second half. 1 point. Kyle, would it be an exaggeration to say that maybe this Kentucky team is a little bit undisciplined? Would that be a bridge too far? I'm trying to figure out what.
I don't know, because I was thinking about that, and I think it's easy to just think like, well, all these kids are top recruits, and maybe they're just a bunch of undisciplined kids, and they're not coachable. And I think that's
push back on that. Push back on that argument.
I think it's easy to want to go there because that's what I do sometimes when these top recruits are struggling or whatever, whoever team it might be. Mm-hmm. But I feel like a good indicator of their buy-in is how they play defense, and I feel like this team plays good defense. They look like they want it. They move their feet. They block shots. I just think they really can't shoot. They don't, and maybe they just don't have chemistry together. I don't know. It doesn't really seem to be a leader on the team. I don't think they don't have very good guard play. I don't know, but I'm not sure that it's not. I don't think it's because they're not trying.
Yeah. The guard play is interesting with them because you kind of see these. It almost looks like they have forwards. You know, they've got these kind of like tall guards,
like 6'7" guards.
Yeah, that have enough ball skills to obviously be serviceable. And if Mintz is going to be making threes like he was, then they'll be okay some of the time. But it's like they're missing I think either just a knockdown 3-point shooter or a true like floor general distributor. Would solve a lot of their problems. Either one of those.
I agree.
And they're used to having both.
Yeah. Well, I also think a sign of a good coach is we know John Calipari is a pretty good coach.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever teams come back out of halftime and you can see that they visibly have made adjustments and are playing better, obviously I think that's a telltale sign of a coach that knows exactly what needs to be done to improve the performance, has analyzed the other team's first half and says this is how we're going to change the course, and that definitely happened.
Kentucky clamped down in the paint
at
the start of the second half for sure.
Yeah. But I agree. I think that they really need a floor general. It just kind of seems like they just all I don't know. It doesn't seem to be a lot of direction or on offense.
Yeah. Well, after the win, after 2 wins, Mizzou is now 12-3 overall, 5-3 in the SEC. They are alone, correct me if I'm wrong, in second place.
Yep.
Part of that's because they have played 2 fewer games than some other teams. Not saying that they would have lost both of those, but if they split those 2, then they'd be tied.
Yeah,
with
they've got fewer
3
losses.
other teams. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're 34th in KenPom now, 32nd on offense, 44th on defense. They're 9th in the SEC in offense, 3rd on defense. I want to emphasize that 3rd on defense because previous Conzo Martin teams have had a good defensive efficiency rating going into conference play, and then next thing you know, a month into play, they're 6th or 7th in the conference in defense when you thought that was going to be a strength. So I'm very happy to see the defensive rating holding strong, and obviously the TCU game doesn't factor into their conference rating, so that helps quite a bit.
Yeah.
And now we have the biggest game of the season at home against Alabama. Alabama, you may have heard of them. They are usually good at football. This year, it's unfair.
Fun year to be a Bama fan.
Most of them are. This year, you get to be good at football and basketball. They're 15-4 overall, 10-0 in conference. They did lose their winning streak to Oklahoma last Saturday. They are 7th in KenPom, 24th on offense, 3rd in defense, and believe it or not, they're 1st in the SEC in offensive efficiency and 1st in the SEC in defensive efficiency. They are also the 9th fastest tempo team in the country per Ken Pomeroy. They're good.
Good old Kenneth.
Nate Oates is a good coach.
Yeah, I think so.
I'm ready for him to begin his very successful career in the NBA.
Yeah.
Like tomorrow.
I'm ready for like Roy Williams to retire or something, and Nate Oates just take the next step up or something.
Yeah, what do we need? Like, we need Nate Oates to take the Michigan State job. Like, he's from Detroit, I think. So,
is he?
Yeah.
Or
Nate
Michigan. Michigan's good.
Yeah, they got Juwan Howard, kind of new. I think Tom Izzo is on the way out at some point, right?
Surely.
Nate Oates, I don't know if we've talked about this before. Probably a lot of our listeners already put it together, but he coached one Wes Clark in high school at Romulus High School in Detroit, and then also at Buffalo when Wes Clark transferred from Missouri.
And Buffalo was really good that year. They were like a 13 seed in the SEC tournament, in the NCAA tournament, and I believe they knocked off 4-seeded Kentucky. I think it was Kentucky.
Was it?
In the first round. Yeah, they might have actually
I had
won.
Arizona in my head.
Could have been.
But
it's 4-seed somebody that they beat. And I think maybe Kentucky also lost in the first round. Maybe that's why I'm getting it confused.
It may have been Kentucky.
That was a while ago, but Wes Clark led Buffalo, and Nate Oates, they were just...
Nate Oates has had good teams everywhere he's been, including high school. He is just... There's no other way to put it. He's an excellent, excellent basketball coach.
Did you hear him in this press conference earlier this year whenever he basically... I don't know if you would call it calling someone out, but he basically just alluded to Coach K at Duke not wanting to play the season because Duke's just not very good. Like, Coach K probably knew even before the season started, my team's not that great this year, so maybe we shouldn't play due to COVID. And Nate Oates called him out in a press conference.
And he basically said, would he be saying this if his team was undefeated?
There you go. Yeah. Exactly.
I don't want to rub it in, but it was Arizona. 4-seed Arizona.
Yeah, after you said that, I was like, yeah, I'm pretty sure it was. But was Kentucky a 5 seed that lost to a 12 seed that year?
You're really pushing my limits of mid-episode research abilities.
Sorry. Well, we do have a research department, don't we?
Yeah, what's he doing? It would take too long to get him caught up on what we need research now. 2018 NCAA tournament. Can you figure out what Kentucky did in the 2018 NCAA tournament?
I'd be willing to bet they were a 5 seed that lost in the first round, but I can't remember who they lost to.
I have an easy way to figure it out. I'll just look on KenPom. They beat Buffalo after Buffalo beat Arizona.
Kentucky did?
Yes.
What? Okay, well.
Then Kentucky lost to Kansas State.
You know, sometimes
you knew there was a connection there.
I did, but like, it's so funny how the mind works, the memory works. Where I'm just convinced, like if you wouldn't have been here to like tell me the facts, I would have just been the rest of my life. I've been like, yeah, Kentucky was a 4 seed that lost to Buffalo, and like completely wrong, and I just never would have.
People get
I would have never been challenged.
Yeah, some people call those alternative facts. They get those alternative facts in their head, and they don't have anybody to challenge them on them. Oh, I'm glad I'm here for you, Kyle. I hope that you would do the same for me.
Yeah, just keep me grounded.
Oh, yeah. That's what we're about here. What are we talking about? Alabama. Nate Oates is a good coach. They are missing maybe one of their better forwards. Jordan Bruner transferred from Yale. He had started all 13 games prior to going down with a knee injury. They replace him with a guy named Alex Reese. He's not really a traditional post player. He will try to stretch the floor a little bit.
He's athletic.
Shoot some threes, put the ball on the floor. So maybe look for them to try to move Jeremiah Tillman around, get him out of the paint, free up some driving lanes. But Alabama's not really looking to drive the ball all that much.
They're not looking trying to drive.
They're looking to drive just to kick it out to an open three-pointer shooter.
Yeah.
Obviously, we know about John Petty. I'm kind of shocked that he has been at Alabama for 4 seasons, even considering they had a coaching change, and he could have maybe gone to the NBA early at some point. But he is just kind of a solid, like very high floor offensive contributor for them. He is in a little bit of a shooting slump right now. His 3-point shooting has dipped a little bit, but they have enough shooters on the team that it doesn't matter too much. And I mean, he's the type of guy that it's not shocking if he shoots 10 threes in a game. And it's also not shocking if he makes 4 or 5 or 6 threes in a game. So I don't know. Lately, he's been a little bit off. They also have a guard, Javon Quinterly. He originally went to Villanova, then transferred to Alabama.
Was he the guy that was like a 5-star recruit coming out of high school and then just barely played at Villanova at all?
Yeah.
And transferred, yeah.
And it was kind of
that
weird situation.
Yeah.
Nobody really understood why he wasn't getting any playing time.
Yeah. Well,
but he's been just fine at Alabama this year. They've got a really good forward in Herbert Jones, who is really efficient scoring. I think he will challenge Missouri's post players defensively.
I believe at one point he was like the KenPom player of the year in the SEC, maybe like a couple weeks ago.
I believe he's still in the top. Yeah, he's still number 1 on the list. Yeah, he's still in the top 5 there. Xavier Pinson, number 3 on that all-SEC team, according to KenPom. We should figure out some kind of like affiliate deal with KenPom where if people subscribe, we get a little kickback because we cite him like 20 times an episode. It's good. It's good research. What can I say? Kyle, how does Missouri beat Alabama? Is there Missouri or Alabama has to just be a little bit off shooting from three?
Yeah, I mean, it seems like kind of lazy to just be like, well, they need to miss shots. Well, that's really honestly like what needs to happen in this game against Alabama. They're so dangerous from three. They shoot a ton of them. I feel like they could just get hot and they can make 3 or 4 in a row, and it's just devastating. Like whenever they go on a run like that. Offensively, I feel like Missouri just needs to stick to the blueprint, get the ball inside. Tillman, like nobody's stopping Tillman right now. I mean, last night I can remember a play specifically where there was like 3 people guarding Tillman, and he just like still lays it up anyway.
Yeah,
like, through them.
Maybe the one where it almost seemed like he kind of like misplayed it a little bit, and just like there was nowhere for him to go, but he still just made the shot.
Yeah. I mean, I'd love to see another kind of Pinson and Tillman tandem game where they just seem to work together so well. When Pinson gets in the lane, it kind of like reminded me a little bit of Sharif Cooper a little bit, where they just get in the lane and they're just have the vision to look around and see what their options are so well, and just that connection between those two is so great. And I don't know. I think that's the game plan. I don't know that you ever turn to 3-point shooting first against anybody if you're Missouri.
No.
But test the water, see what the interior scoring, how's that going for you, and if it's not working, then maybe find something else. But I think that's always the first thing you go to.
I'm looking at a common opponent here. Alabama just played Kentucky on January 26th, and in that game they held Kentucky to 33% shooting on 2-pointers. So that's not great for Missouri's chances. Kentucky shot okay from 3, though, 43% on 14 attempts. Alabama shot 11 more free throws than Kentucky in that game, and they turned Kentucky over 17 times. So they made Kentucky's offense look a little bit worse than Missouri was able to. And that's the thing, like with Alabama, you think about John Petty, you think about Quinterly being like a, floor general, finding the open guy, and you think about their 3-point shooting, but they're the 3rd best defensive team in the country, according to KenPom.
It is true. Like I immediately think of the offense, the high-powered offense, but you're right. That's definitely something that's just come out of nowhere this year. They've just been elite defensively, and I don't know where that came from, but they're just they're a really well-rounded team.
I don't want to root for this, but with this Missouri team, we end up rooting for this, I think, a lot, and I think I wouldn't mind the officials being a little bit quick with the whistle against the defenses in this game.
I can put up with an ugly game if it means that we're going to have an advantage.
Yeah. So I think we got to look for Missouri to get to the free throw line a lot.
Yep. I agree.
I mean, this has been the last, 10 games. I think I've thought we need it to be the Pinson-Tillman show.
Yeah. Missouri really hasn't shot free throws as well in the last few games, I feel like, as they did early on.
I think Tillman is getting more attempts versus Pinson and Drew.
Yeah.
If Tillman had Mitchell Smith's free throw shooting abilities, then he would truly be unstoppable.
Oh, yeah.
Because Mitchell Smith, and we got to mention him, going back to the Kentucky game for just a second, I think he had like 12 rebounds, and his defense is...
That's why he's on the floor.
Yeah. His length and ability to alter shots and grab rebounds.
He can move really, really well for like a 7-foot player, basically. Yeah. Also, this is kind of random, but just made me think of it. Also, in the Kentucky game, what do you think about Jimmy Dykes?
In previous seasons, I would have said, I don't need him. Who needs him? But I feel like it's been a while since he's called a Missouri game.
They haven't really had him.
It was a little bit refreshing, I think. I didn't mind. I was like, oh, Jimmy. I was literally, if you'd asked me before the game, I would have said, is he even an employee of SEC Network?
Seems like we got him a lot.
Early on in the SEC.
Well, I think this is an ESPN game, potentially.
Maybe that makes sense. Maybe he's moved up in the world.
Yeah.
He's no longer confined to SEC Network.
I believe some people on Twitter were thinking that he was calling the game a little pro Kentucky. What it felt like, I'm not sure I ever really got those vibes, but
I kind of liked it. I kind of liked him.
It's fine.
Yeah, it'd been a while since I heard him.
He brought up an interesting point about Tillman, which is why I thought about it. But he was talking about Tillman's like free throw motion and how his left hand was almost kind of blocking his own shot as he was shooting, and I thought that was kind of an interesting observation.
Yeah, it's always interesting to me what coaches decide to tweak with a player's shooting motion in college, and it seems like usually they're more willing to mess with a player's free throw stroke than their 3-point shooting. And I think most college coaches are going to say, if the ball goes in the basket, I don't care if it's ugly. Like, we don't have time to work on a shooting motion to try to add 4% to your 3-point percentage. We're just going to hope the ball goes in. And then if a player gets to the NBA, that's when they can really fine-tune their shooting motion. But it seems like it'd be worth it when you have like a post player who's getting to the foul line pretty regularly to really examine their free throw shooting and say, okay, is there anything we can do to make this a little bit better? And Tillman's not horrendous at the line. He makes enough to make it where I'm okay with teams fouling him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's probably about a 50% shooter, which is.
But in a given game, I feel like, I don't know, if it's that low, then maybe it just seems not as bad in a game.
If he could shoot even 10% better, I think it could really help us out in close situations.
I remember Jimmy Dykes analyzing Jabari Brown's 3-point shooting motion and the rotation of the ball. Something specific I remember.
He just really watches those shot motions.
Yeah.
He knows a lot about it.
Yeah.
It was an upgrade over some of the SEC.
Yeah, and the play-by-play guy is like Carl Ravitch, I think. So, yeah, I definitely like hearing him. He's usually doing ESPN baseball stuff is, I think, where he's been most recently. But I think he's like one of their top guys for play-by-play. Let's see here with Alabama. Where are we here?
Missouri going to win this game?
Yeah. I'll say it. They're going to shoot 30-plus free throws. They're going to make a lot of them. I think we're going to get a game from Pinson. And I think Missouri's going to run with Alabama. And Missouri's going to win it 80-75.
I like it. I'm going to agree with you.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the up tempo maybe not favors Missouri, but I think they can handle that. In fact, sometimes I think when they try to go too slowly, whenever they get slowed down by certain teams, then it can really be ugly. And I think when they get a lot of possessions in, it can really help them. I think that they will continue to shoot okay from three. I think they'll shoot well enough to get the job done, and they'll hold Alabama under 35% from three. And they'll win 78-76.
Close one.
Close one.
I'm excited. Day game. Early game.
Yeah, early. It's like 11 a.m.
Yeah. One more thing that I want to talk about. Obviously, we're still going to talk about Ole Miss, but it seems like Missouri has this thing where they like to get out and transition after a miss, but sometimes you got a player that needs to... Okay, so like take Kobe Brown, for example. He had a great play, maybe, I can't remember which game it was now, where he found Tillman early in a possession, like off of a miss. He brought the ball down quickly, found Tillman for a layup. And it was like one of the first points of the game for Missouri. Then, I think it was against TCU. Then later in the game, he gets the rebound, takes it himself, like to half court, is passing back to Pinson, and the ball just gets picked off and goes the other way for a layup. And I get the idea of just whoever gets the ball, we're pushing it. But if you don't have something, the opponent they know you're going to try to get it to Benson or Drew Smith. And it just seems like we've had some lazy passes that have turned into layups at the other end that are just totally avoidable. And a couple of them have been like inbounding the ball after a make, where like Penson is already running up court. He's just going to catch it in stride and take off and just gets picked off. And I don't know. If you like dribble the ball off your foot or, make a bad pass and it tips off the guy's hand and goes out of bounds, and those kind of turnovers, those are easier for me to live with than just making a lazy pass and gets picked off, especially if it just turns into 2 points at the other end.
Yeah, that was...
I just needed to get that off my chest.
That was among that TCU run where they felt like they were closing that game out, where he threw the ball away. I agree with those sentiments. Another thing I was going to say, why I think Missouri's going to beat Alabama, I just think Missouri likes to play the good teams. I think they show up for the games that they know really matter, and kind of like we've seen them do the opposite against bad teams. Like I think they need a little bit of motivation, and sometimes against TCU or Bradley or Liberty or whoever it is, they come out a little bit flat. But when they know they got to get up for a game, Oregon, Illinois, Tennessee, they've really
Arkansas
stepped up to the challenge like almost every single time.
One thing that I thought was interesting was Missouri was really celebrating at the end of the TCU game because obviously overtime, big comeback. They were pretty amped. At the end of the Kentucky game, there was like some high fives. I don't think I saw a single player smile. They were just like, yeah, we won. Like
all business.
Yeah, let's move on to the next one.
Yeah.
I was happy to see that.
I like to see it both. Is Pickett okay? He looked like he really like turned his ankle there at the end of that game.
He'll be fine. He's tough.
He'll be fine.
Yeah. He's very tough.
Yeah.
Okay, Missouri's got to play Ole Miss. Ole Miss is 9-8, 4-6 in conference, number 65 in KenPom, 129 offense, 16th on defense, 13th in the SEC in offense, 6th in the SEC in defense. Obviously, they still have Devontae Shuler. He's been there a million years. He will potentially be there another year. Like, if you're looking at across the SEC, like, he's a legitimate candidate to potentially be back next year. I don't think he has NBA prospects.
Probably not. Yes. Marshall Henderson?
Oh, yeah.
He's on their staff now.
Is he really?
Yeah, I think I heard. I think I saw they hired him.
That sounds familiar now that you mention that.
Oh man, those are the glory days.
Can't stand that guy. He was just really good against Missouri.
He was fun to watch, though. He was a character.
They are probably going to be without KJ Buffin. He's a pretty good forward for them. He only played 5 minutes combined in their last 2 games. Coach Kermit Davis said he was dealing with personal problems, so he was like logging 25 minutes a game for them. They recently won against Tennessee 52-50.
Good grief. And
they held Tennessee to 8 for 26 from 2. That's 31%. And they didn't send them to the free throw line, and they destroyed Tennessee on the glass. They out-rebounded them by like 11.
Tennessee might be the hardest team in the SEC to figure out like what they're going to do. Just they are all over the place.
So I was kind of looking at the box score for that game, and obviously that's where I got those stats. Tennessee, Yves Pons had 13 points. Keon Johnson had 11. Josiah Jordan-James had 10. That's where they are. That's their strength, is that they have like 6 guys who can score double figures on any night. I know we're talking about Ole Miss, not Tennessee, but I think that they just need one of those guys to step up and just be the guy.
It's almost like a weakness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, Ole Miss. They've got this guy named Romeo White, who is like their center. He's going to be matched up against Tillman. And I think he could provide Tillman with a little bit of a struggle. I don't think they will want to double team Tillman very much. I think Alabama will try to quite a bit, but I think Ole Miss will try to avoid it and just see what they can get out of White. He's listed at 6'8", but he looks bigger than that when you watch him on TV.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he transferred from
I'll tell you.
Arizona State.
That's correct.
Is his name really pronounced?
2 L's back to back.
Okay. I was just always thought his name was Romello or whatever.
Oh.
But who knows? I mean, that's perfectly reasonable.
Yeah. I guess we'll find out.
If that's really how you pronounce it, then props to you, man.
Thanks.
That took some guts to say it like
sometimes
that.
you just got to pick away and
You
go
just gotta
for
go
it.
with
That's
it.
what I
Go
go.
with it.
That's what I usually do. Let's see here. I don't know. I don't know as much about Ole Miss as I do Alabama. Ole Miss was supposed to be better on offense than they have been this season, but they're making up for it on defense. Obviously, Tennessee can struggle, but holding them to 50 points is pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Mississippi State has lost to LSU, Florida, Georgia, Arkansas. They lost to Georgia twice, so they can lose to anybody. They play very slow pace. In SEC play, they're 13th in tempo.
Do they turn people over and do they block shots?
Let me tell you, in the whole course of their season, their defense is 7th in the country in turnover percentage. So that's not good. They are 65th in block percentage. So So to answer your question, yes, they do both of those things.
This could be an ugly game.
Yeah.
On the road.
Yeah. I think we're going to need Missouri to get out in transition, push the ball, get to the rim, and just don't let Ole Miss set up into their half-court defense, because they'll run you off the three-point line and clamp down at the rim.
Yeah, Missouri's got to figure out how to control the pace for sure. I definitely don't think Missouri wants to play slow.
No. And hopefully they'll get out and run against Alabama and just enjoy it and roll that right into the Ole Miss game.
Let's do it again.
Yeah.
I think Mizzou's going to go 1-1 in the stretch. I don't know if they'll beat if they lose to Alabama, I think they'll rebound and beat Ole Miss. If they beat Alabama, I feel like they're just going to be too high and lose to Ole Miss. I think I'm just going to go safe and just say that
hedge your bets a little bit.
Hedge my bet and just say they go 1-1 in the stretch, and I'd probably be okay with that.
That makes a lot of sense to me. Looking ahead at the schedule after these two games, they've got a decent chance of winning 5 games in a row. Arkansas at home, Georgia, South Carolina on the road, Ole Miss at home, Texas A&M at home.
Yeah.
That's the best shot you're going to have in a given SEC season of a 5-game winning streak.
For sure.
So, I don't know. It seems like a lot to ask that they win both of those games and then still have their sights set on a 5-game winning streak, because then that would turn it into a 9-game winning streak. And that
I don't know about that.
Seems unrealistic.
Well, are they going to make up the game against LSU and Vanderbilt?
The plan is still to get those in the week after the regular season, before the conference tournament.
Did they create kind of a buffer week of makeup time?
Yeah,
there?
that was the plan.
Okay.
What's his name? The SEC commissioner was on the broadcast of the TCU game. You didn't know because you didn't have your sound turned up.
I actually saw him on there, but I couldn't listen to the interview.
But he was talking about that exact thing.
Gotcha.
That they've got that extra week in there to get those games in. But he said they're not going to go ahead and schedule them because they need to see what happens the rest of the way. Because Missouri Kentucky game, that was pushed back a day because of COVID stuff. So
True.
But yeah, we should still get a shot at LSU and Vanderbilt. You got to think that's a guaranteed win against Vanderbilt at home.
Yeah. All right. Well, since I predicted them to go 1-1, I guess and I predicted a win against Alabama, I'll say Missouri loses a close one on the road against Ole Miss, and I'll say it's 62-60.
You're basically predicting like a repeat of the Tennessee-Auburn week, where they win a huge game against Tennessee and then turn around and lose to Auburn, which on paper is a more manageable opponent. Yeah, I mean, I really think the Ole Miss game is a coin flip, and Missouri, I don't know. The pace that Alabama's going to want to play will help Missouri's offense. The fact that Ole Miss is a really good defense and they want to slow it down worries me. Now, there's a chance that Alabama will just get Missouri spun up a little too fast and generate a bunch of turnovers out of it. But, man, I guess I'm going to have to go for the 9-game winning streak because I think they're going to beat Ole Miss. And I think it'll be something like 77 to 68.
Nice. Famously, I'd love to be wrong.
Oh, yeah. I love it when you're wrong.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
If Missouri is like a top 4 seed in the SEC tournament and they've easily done enough to get a top 4 or 5 seed in the NCAA tournament, are they going to play in the SEC tournament? I've heard that some teams may opt out of their conference tournaments.
Okay.
In fear of COVID.
Yeah, I saw something about that, and then I also saw a reply to that on Twitter that was like from a legitimate blue checkmark sports journalist that said most conferences have a clause in their membership agreement that says, too bad you're not opting out of the conference tournament.
Okay, well that solves that.
Yeah. So I kind of dismissed that as soon as I saw, teams would opt out, and then kind of dismissed it as soon as I saw that rebuttal.
Yeah, because, it makes sense. If you've done enough to earn your spot and you don't want to travel and you're afraid of getting COVID issues and then missing out on the NCAA tournament, that's devastating, but you just got to take the chance, I think. It sounds like you really have to.
Yeah, and then where do you draw the line? Okay, you're Missouri. Well, let's say you go on a 9-game winning streak, and then all you have left is Florida, LSU, and Vanderbilt. And you're like, well, you know what? We're good. We'll take our protected seed in the NCAA tournament. We're going to opt out of these last 4 games of the season and the conference tournament. You'd have, if that was...
That would be like suicide for your
If that was being entertained, then...
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like maybe the conferences could, maybe they should collude with the NCAA tournament selection committee and just be like, hey, come out and say...
Put your foot down.
If you opt out, you're not being accepted.
Wow.
That'd be something.
The opposite of putting your foot down.
Yeah, the NCAA tournament puts their foot down, says, you're playing in your conference tournament.
Yeah.
Or else.
Yeah, put your foot down.
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
Be authoritarian about it.
Oh, yeah. That's what I like to see out of my sports organizations.
Yeah. Make the kids play.
I'm going to put that on the shirt.
Yeah. Okay, well, that solves that. I was a little bit afraid because I feel like Missouri has a case where it's like, well, Missouri might be one of those teams that it makes sense for them to opt out of a conference tournament if they've done enough, but I don't want them to.
Wouldn't, all the top teams of every conference feel that way, though? Now, the conferences that... what would stop all the bracketology... Looking at bracketology and being like, okay, on all the brackets, we're a guaranteed at-large bid, so...
Sure.
You'd have, 50 teams... potentially. How many true bubble teams are there each year that really need the conference tournament to...
I would say probably 15, 20.
Yeah. So that'd be interesting to see what would happen if that came to pass. I might have to do a little bit more research into that.
What if then teams who are winning the conference tournament get the automatic bid, but they didn't have to play some of these better teams?
Okay, yeah, now there's a scenario for you. I'm going to take it one step further.
Okay.
Teams opt out. And then enough upsets happen, and they just gobble up all these automatic bids.
And then they're like,
and then then they're like, okay, there's no at-large bids left. So a bunch of these teams aren't in the tournament now.
A 20-win Missouri team's like, nope, you didn't get a bid.
Yeah, you 6 teams in the SEC thought they were good, so they didn't play in the conference tournament. Then Georgia won it, and now they get to go.
Yeah.
So one of you's out. Yeah,
I'm not sure how much steam there actually was in that happening, but I think I just had seen it mentioned, and it would probably really only apply to the top of the top teams that really felt like they were secure. But even those teams, you're fighting for a 1 and 2 seed.
Right.
Like, why give up the opportunity to do that when you've played all season long for that opportunity?
Coach K would probably like the idea, though. Like,
Yeah.
lock up a spot in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah.
Fewer games, the better.
Yeah, no, we don't want those COVID concerns.
Yeah. I feel like okay. What seed is, as of right now, before these games, what seed is the Missouri Tigers going to be in the NCAA tournament?
Not the season ended today, but my guess as to what it will be.
Yes.
Okay. I'll say 4.
Wow. I'm going to take the opposite end of the spectrum, and I got them as a 6 seed.
I thought you were about to say
5.
2. 5.
Oh. No.
You said you're going to go the opposite end of the spectrum.
Yeah, I'm saying worst case scenario.
Okay.
That's how my mind works with the Missouri Tigers of any sport.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought we were sunshine pumpers.
Well, if I'm being asked to actually pick, though.
Okay. So, okay. I think right now, if the season ended today, they're probably what, like a 3 seed?
4?
3 or 4?
5.
4, 5?
If they're 18th.
If you ask Bart Torvik, they're like a 2.
Yeah, Bart Torvik likes Missouri more than Kim Pom.
Yeah.
More than, who's the ESPN guy that does it? Joe Lenardi.
Jerry Palm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird. Analytics don't like Missouri that much, but when you have humans who are the ones that are making the bracket, and they're the ones looking at tournament resumes, and Missouri's got as good of a resume as anybody.
Yep.
They've got 5 quad 1 wins.
Going to be a 6th after Alabama?
Going to be a 6th against Alabama.
Well, where's Ole Miss going to fall?
And they're going to lose like a quadrant 3 game to Ole Miss.
No.
No, because it's on the road.
Yeah.
It'll be a 2.
Yeah. At least.
At least.
I'm trying to find a road game that's comparable here.
Yeah, I guess.
Wichita State.
Wichita State, I remember hearing that was like right on the line for quad 1. Like, we really need to root for Wichita State because that could very easily slip down to
and
a
I
quad
think
2.
they've struggled enough that it's almost out of the question at this point. But Ole Miss absolutely is going to be on that line by the end of the season, I think.
Just win them all.
That's one.
Leave
way to
no
do it.
doubt.
That's one way to do it. 9-game winning streak.
If Missouri wins out, are they a 1 seed?
And wins the conference tournament?
Yes.
Yes.
Ooh.
I don't know. There's some really good teams out there. I mean, you're fighting. Any teams not named Gonzaga and Baylor are fighting for 2 number 1 seeds.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe Missouri's a 2 seed. But that's not going to happen. All right. That's enough bracketology for today.
That's all I got for the folks.
All right. Take it away.
All right. Okay, you can find this podcast on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts. We're on Twitter and Instagram at Mizzou Sports Pod, and you can email us at MissouriSportsPod@gmail.com.
You can find our t-shirts and stickers on our online shop, MissouriSportsPod.BigCartel.com.
Subscribe on YouTube. YouTube commenters, would you rather be burned or run over? Are you more excited about the Chiefs in the Super Bowl or getting EA Sports College Football video game back? Answer in the comments. I know what my answer is. Easy. It's in the game. See you next week.